Okay, welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for coming this evening to Town Hall. Just a few housekeeping things. We are in presentation mode on a webinar. We do not have the ability to see you, but you see all of the presenters in front of you this evening. We ask that if you have any questions that you haven't been able to pre-populate, that you can use that Q&A icon on the bottom, and then we will be able to see that. And as we go through this meeting, we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. So first and foremost, thank you for making the time. Introduce myself. I have the privilege and honor of serving as the Silverton High School principal this coming year. I've been here since mid-May, and I've had a great opportunity to see some amazing teaching and learning happening in the spring before the end of the year. Teachers were delivering through hybrid model, through online and in person. And I can assure you that that's no easy task for any teacher to do. So I was very, very impressed, very appreciative to see such high quality teaching happening during what we were experiencing. Also got to experience an amazing graduation in person when many high schools across the country would not make that decision. It was great to see our last year's seniors, the graduating class, walk across that stage. What an honor. Also got to view some amazing activities. Athletics was still running all the way through June. And that was a privilege to watch that as well. And one thing that I want to commend this community on is I also had the opportunity to attend board meetings. As we all have very strong convictions, it was extremely pleasing to see how respectful everyone was to whatever your convictions are in expressing concerns and asking questions as to how we move forward. So I just wanted to share that. Again, a little bit about me, and I want some of Mr. Rise and Mr. Mulligan to also introduce themselves.
First of all, thank you all for being here tonight. I recognize many names that are part of our attendees, but there's also quite a few folks that I do not recognize. So for those that I haven't had the pleasure to meet, my name is James Rise. I'm an assistant principal here at the high school. I also serve as our athletic director. I have been at Silverton. I'm actually starting my 8th year. This will be my 4th year in the role as athletic director. So again, just to piggyback on what Mr. Thompson kind of started with, we appreciate you all being here. We appreciate the engagement by not only our students, but by our families and community. And again, just on the housekeeping side of things, we will keep an eye on that Q&A. If we don't have time or the opportunity to answer every question that gets placed into that chat bar for us, we will follow up with either a frequently asked questions that will be shared out, and or we will try to tackle them at a future town hall. I think at this point we can safely say that we will continue to have weekly town halls until we feel that it may not be necessary. So again, thank you all for being here. And then just another side point, this is being recorded, so it will be posted to our YouTube channel and or be able to access by way of our school's webpage. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Rice. So I'm Mr. Mulligan, for those of you that I've not met. I also have the great pleasure of joining the awesome family here at Silverton High School. I'm very, very excited to be here, especially in my role working with curriculum and instruction, coming from about 4 years working in administration up in the North Clackamas area, and previously Salem Kaiser, but I know and just how valuable the Silverton community and the education is. I kind of pseudo say I somewhat adopted Silverton. I married a former Silverton High School graduate. So my wife, always has sung the praises of Silverton. I know what a great community and great school it is. And so I'm very, very happy to be there and to help work with everyone. And so we're really excited this year to really just kind of try to get back into our kids being in our classrooms and working safely to make sure that we're providing the best high quality education that we continue to provide at Silverton High School.
Thank you. And we would be remiss if we didn't mention another integral part of our team, Mrs. Drescher. She is healing from a procedure. We wish her the best for a safe, speedy recovery. She may be listening in, so wanted to make sure that we acknowledge her as well. So now we've gone through the introductions. We would like to share with you some important dates of what's coming up. And then obviously a lot of the questions that we have revolving around health and safety and COVID protocols. One of the first things that is a big change this coming school year is the school day has shifted. We will be beginning at 8:45 a.m. and the school day will run to 3:45 in the afternoon. We had quite a bit of meetings, and the drivers of this decision were one, the educators made a decision based on research that's out there that it's developmentally appropriate for high school age students as they are more active later on in the mid-morning. So that was one of the indicators that we looked at. The other driver was transportation and some of the limitations for that. So you may see in our district, some of the other schools, our K-8 schools had also shifted their school day start time a little earlier, as well as their release time. So for Silverton High School, this coming fall, we will begin 8:45 for students and our release time 3:45 for our typical bell day schedule. Speaking of transportation, bus transportation request, a very important date, August 20th, that's this Friday, in order to request your bus transportation. Now, this is only for new or if you have a new address, so your students can be picked up and dropped off. You can do that on the website. You can also call the main office, and we're more than happy to walk you through the process. And again, we need to get those in bus transportation requests this Friday, August 20th. Another important date, first days, I should say, of school will be the September 7th for our freshmen. So we'll bring in our freshmen as the school has done in the past. The first day of school for freshmen is that Tuesday, September 7th. This day will be largely dedicated to orientation, activities. It'll provide some opportunities for the students to be on campus and get familiar with their classes, the layout of the campus, some of our protocols, the lunch program. And I'm going to invite Mr. Rise to share a little bit more details of what that first day for freshmen looks like. Mr. Rise.
Thank you. So we are more than lucky to have one of our teachers, Mrs. Katie Kantrowitz. She's in our world language department, and one of our counselors, Miss Christy Hayes, lead what we call our link crew. And what link crew does is it takes some of our older students and pairs them with our incoming freshmen and allows not only for the freshmen to be introduced to the school and the way we do things, but it also allows an opportunity for our older students to find ways that they can improve their leadership skills. So that day, that Tuesday, the 7th, is is we kind of pass that off to Mrs. Kantowitz and Mrs. Hayes, and they do a tremendous job of creating positive energy, excitement around that day, while also easing some concerns. I mean, we have kids that come from many different schools and many different school sizes, and the sheer volume of students that are on campus can be a lot for our kids to take in. And so that day is to try to ease them into what a day on campus looks like. So typically that first half of the day, those students are with our staff and our link crew, and they're doing activities and icebreakers and tours of the school. And that takes us up into about lunchtime. And then in the afternoon, the freshmen typically run their 7-period day in a modified schedule. So they might report to each class for say 5 to 10 minutes, just to get used to what their transition from one course, say period 1 is to period 2. We have staff on hand for that day. Obviously, again, we have upperclassmen students that kind of help out with that. But the main goal is to try to ease the transition for those first year kids. And then we'll pass it back to talk day 2.
Thanks so much, James. So day 2, this is the first day of school for our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. This will be Wednesday, September 8th, and we'll run through a typical bell schedule day. We'll also go through some activities, as Mr. Rise has shared with the upperclassmen, but not as in detail. And we'll also do some welcoming activities through assemblies. So that'll be the first day for all of the rest of the students, our upperclassmen, as we say. One of the questions was, now that the school day starts at 8:45, when will the doors be open? When will we be able? So in order to accommodate appropriate supervision, our early drop-off or our doors will be open at 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. The commons area, breakfast will be served, and the library will be open as well. So that's as early as we have planned on opening the building. Moving on, as another important date, registration. So one of the questions that we also received is when will the students have their schedules? So at registration, we will have the all student schedules packet. So registration, important date is August 24th and 25th. Now there is a link on our website that will go through the details of when to come in during those hours and those times. We have made the decision that the registration will be very similar to the previous year's registration as a drive-through. Important things to note in this drive-through registration on the 24th and 25th is to bring verification form completed. Photos will be taken. So let's make sure that our students are well and awake for our photos. Again, you will pick up your schedules, your bail schedules at that day. Drop off any book materials. So any books or any other school materials that you have held on to, that is an opportunity to drop that off. Appointments for your students' schedules may be made with counselors, online appointments to discuss any schedule discrepancies. Now I want to share that the schedule discrepancies or changes are going to be primarily or prioritized for graduation requirements, and your counselors will go over that with you and your student. Back to school supplies and dress code can also be found online. And also remember that supplies, much different than elementary. Supplies are individual to many of our courses. So the syllabi that your student will receive on the first days of school will have greater detail as to what's required for school supplies. Fees, make a note here that fees, any outstanding or fees that you would like to take care of can be done online, or you may schedule an appointment with the school office for handling that in person. So that sums up a lot of the highlights for registration. And again, go online with the link on there that'll share with you times between that 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. for your registration. The next thing we'd like to share is safe reopening. The COVID safety plan has been updated on the Oregon Department of Education website, as well as our Silver Falls and our school website. Want to be very clear that we are beholden to the governor's mask mandate. Silverton High School will follow the guidance set by Oregon Department of Education for face coverings. We have some protocols in place. We will have a dedicated school nurse. We have isolation room for those that are displaying symptoms. We definitely have security protocols for guests entering the building and limiting the amount of folks that are coming in and out of the building. We'll continue with some of the PPE equipment. We'll continue with hand sanitizers at all of the entrances. We're also limiting bathrooms to a low amount. We don't have every bathroom yet equipped, but we're looking at 3 people to a restroom max. We also have a health and safety committee that will be continuously assessing the needs of our school. And we will be making administrative decisions based on the size of our school, based on our population, based on the building size, and how we move folks in and out of classrooms and our students through the hallways during transitions. Mask accommodations. So I know that this is a big question for many. One accommodation, in order to be entitled for this accommodation, students must be eligible for either a Section 504 plan under the Rehabilitation Act, or an IEP, an Individualized Education Program, under the Individuals with Disability Education Act. An appropriate initial evaluation designed to assess all suspected areas of need must be conducted prior to a team considering eligibility for support under the 504 and IDEA. The other accommodation is a medical accommodation with a physician note, and that will be handled on an individual basis as well. In addition to this, the Oregon Department of Education has stated that they will continue to review these requirements, and they on their website have times and dates that you can tune in to hear what they have to say about mask accommodations. The next item on our agenda we have is an athletic update, schedules an athletic parent meeting that'll occur tomorrow. And I'm going to ask Mr. Rise again to give both an athletic update as well as an activity update.
Thank you, sir. So I'm really excited to share that we did start our regular fall practices this week. We have upwards of about 300 kids out practicing and working out for their teams, and games will start at the end of next week. Next Thursday is the quote unquote Jamboree Day. So multiple teams will be participating in Jamboree starting Thursday and Friday. And then we will jump into full competitions the following week. So things are definitely coming fast. The one thing that I did want to make sure that we make explicitly clear, since June, our our athletic department, we have been planning for an all-parent meeting scheduled for tomorrow night at 7 p.m. We have made the decision as a team in the last couple days to move that to a virtual parent meeting. So what that will look like is on our athletics website, silvertonfoxes.com. We will be posting a link tomorrow afternoon, evening, and you will have myself and my secretary, Valerie Martinson, who handles all of our registration process, along with many, many other things. Couldn't do my job without her, so I want to say thank you to her. But she will post that link tomorrow afternoon, evening, probably around 6 or 6:30. We will start right at 7 o'clock, and I'll kind of go through our SOPs, not only just in terms of the COVID side of things, but just expectations for the year. We have half of our students, our freshmen and sophomores, that haven't really experienced a typical year, both on the academic and athletic and activity side of things. So I feel like that this is a good opportunity for us to kind of reset some expectations and restate some pieces that we find important, not only just as a school and a district, but also as a league and as a conference, as well as what the OSAA has asked us to make sure we share. So again, the athletic parent night for fall sports will still take place tomorrow night at 7 p.m., but it will be virtual. So again, silvertonfoxes.com is our athletics website. That's where the link will be posted. And for those of you that also have not had a chance to get on our athletics website, all of our schedules are there. Information for sport-specific teams is also there. Practice schedules, game schedules, opportunities to ask questions to our athletic department. Again, that's silvertonfoxes.com. I can't stress enough how important it is if you are a family with an athlete. We would hope that silvertonfoxes.com is bookmarked for you. That's where we will try to post as many updates as we can and as soon as we have them. So again, I appreciate all of the families and the student athletes that have found a way to get through the last year and a half, and we are looking forward to what we hope to be a good fall for us. So thank you.
Thanks so much, James. Another update that we have, that a lot of questions are coming in and that we've met about, is the graduation requirements. Some questions about what has come down, and I'm gonna ask Patrick Mulligan if you could share with us changes or no changes to graduation requirements. If you can enlighten us about that, please.
Absolutely. So I know a lot of folks have seen online, there were posts and things that came out, and there's some concern over the state legislature and the governor temporarily suspending the essential skills requirement pending an evaluation of that. And there are questions around what is going to be the expectation then on Silverton High School students on being able to read, write, and complete their mathematical calculations. What we can assure you is that for Silverton High School, we still have our rigorous graduation requirements that students have to show their proficiency, both reading, writing, and math within their Common Core standard courses. So for example, our students are required to have 4 credits of English and 3 credits of algebra or of math of algebra 1 or above to be able to graduate. And those are based on the Common Core state standards that they need to show proficiency on. So our students are still going to be held to that standard to be able to show that they can master those different courses and show that for their graduation requirements. And historically, Silverton High School students have met those essential skills through those classes. We know that there's some students that may need some additional support and help, And we have a lot of different programs that we have implemented to help support and ensure that all students can still meet those standards within our coursework. And there was a great message that the school district posted on the Silverton High School, on the Silver Falls School District website, that also includes links to our curriculum guide that includes our graduation requirements and the Oregon Department of Education graduation requirements. So we definitely encourage you to also look there if you have further questions.
Thanks so much, Patrick. Yep, I see that we do. We'll interject as we go along, and I do see a question in there about Chromebooks and students with Chromebooks. So we are extremely fortunate. The district has utilized its resources very, very wisely to enhance our students' education through the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic, and moving forward. And we're fortunate enough to have devices for every student. So within the first weeks of school, we will have a distribution to each student a device, and we'll go through that process in the first few days of school. So thank you for that question. We'll get into more questions, and we'll continue to interject and give updates as we go along. One great question. If there is a mandate to close schools, do you have a plan in place? I want to start off first and foremost with the communication, and to share that 5 days a week, in-person learning is our focus. That is our message, and that is our focus, and that's what we've been focused on and working hard over the summer in getting things geared up and set up. Now, we know that's what we do best. That's what we do best as educators. Remote learning through electronic platforms is not what we do best, and it's not what's best for students in their educational process. We want to make sure that as we go through this process, and each day we're learning about the increase and the spike, that if we are mandated to do something other than in person, we will adapt as necessary and as required by mandate. We can move towards various models, as we've witnessed before, that we've had hybrid, we've had online, we had the technology of Canvas. Teachers in the high school are all equipped with cameras and with that are connected to their computers. And they've experienced synchronous and asynchronous models. Knowing this, we will be, through our in-service, discussing how we can create a backup plan or plans if we need to shift in all of or any of the various models that I just shared with you. But again, our priority efforts are for 5 days a week in-person learning. And that's where we're headed. Other question, is the high school prepared to offer hybrid learning again? Now, I can share with you that we still have the subscription to Canvas, which you may be familiar with. And that platform is still with us, and we'll be looking into that, and we'll be updating and upgrading lessons in that as necessary and as needed. Let's see, we have some other great questions here. When will the bell schedules be released? So the bell schedules, we have planned on having a detailed, finalized bell schedule this Friday, August 20th. That's what Mr. Mulligan had committed to us, and I'm going to check with him to see if we're on track for the 20th, that we'll post online. I see him nodding. And also copies will be in the registration packet, but as soon as being posted online this Friday. Let's see. Another question. Possible extra couple of minutes between classes for students to step outside and get a breath of fresh air. We want to go back in person, but we do struggle and sometimes we need to have a mask break. Absolutely. So what we're doing right now is with the bell schedule, protocols, and health and safety, we are designating areas throughout a process for some release time for students that may need mask breaks. So we will go through that process. We'll have protocols, we'll have dedicated areas, and teachers will have discretion also to release students for brief mask breaks. We'll also be encouraging, weather permitting, that some of the classes that, if appropriate, that they conduct some of their courses outside as well. So that is a yes. We will develop that within our safety structures, as well as the discretion that our teachers will have for mask release, for releasing students for a mask break. Another question we have here, is there going to be an option for online school this year? So this is other than being mandated, will I as a parent have the option? Fox Online will not be an option offered by the school right now. That is, again, our focus on 5 days in-person learning. That is different than if we go through a quarantine situation, then we will have individual plan to ensure that your student will continue their learning if that's the case. Let's see. A few more. Again, another one, how early can my student enter the building? If you didn't catch it before, library and the commons area, we were open and have supervision as early as 8 a.m. and that's the plan right now. Breakfast will be available at that time. 8:30, we will open up the rest of the building as that will be the time that we'll have supervision available in the rest of the building and all of our classrooms. What happens if a student or many students arrive to school without a mask? So we'll take that one first, and there's a second part to that question. So again, we will follow the mask mandate. We will have available mask coverings for students that forget their mask and need one in order to enter the building so they can begin their learning. If a student refuses to wear one, again, if that is an individual decision, then we will take that up with those students individually, or that student individually, and we will handle that as a learning opportunity, and we will educate and let the student know that it is necessary to enter the building with a mask on. Here, another question. I was wondering if COVID vaccines have any chance of being mandatory during or any part of this school year. Currently, there's not a decision made at the building or district level. We can say there is currently no requirement for COVID-19 vaccinations for students to attend at this time. Can you speak to what lunchtime will be like? Will kids eat in classrooms? How will they stay physically distanced? We're currently going through our footprint, knowing how many students that we'll have in the commons areas. We are looking at other furniture to bring in, and we're also looking at opening up other areas of the building. We will also be permitting students to eat outside. We'll provide benches and tables in certain areas so we can eat outside, of course, weather permitting. We also are allowing the off-campus lunch to continue at this time. All of these are subject to change again, but at this time, our plan is to allow students, we're not restricting students for off-campus lunch. but we will have protocol again for re-entering the buildings, and that's mask, and we will highly encourage hand washing, and we will have the alcohol sanitization dispensers at all of the entry points as well. Great question. Also have school supplies. I think we went over that real briefly. Vaccinations. Safety plan on identifying students or staff members to enter the school. So safety plan. So I get this question is referring to not being able to identify students or adults wearing face coverings, and what's the safety plan for that. So I can share with you that staff are required to at all times have their badges and identify their school issued badges with their pictures and identification, as well as students. As soon as we have all of those distributed, we also will ensure that all of our teachers have appropriate seating charts. Also, our teachers are required to be in the hallways during transition and greet students at the door as they come into the classrooms. So those will be some of the safety protocols that are in place, and we may ramp it up and have stricter safety protocols in the future as we continue to assess. Will there be any requirements on what type of mask is allowed in schools? There are no requirements right now, but there are some recommendations of use of mask that we will follow through ODE, and that's must be covering the nose and mouth, and the type of mask. I do believe that there are some recommendations for that. At this time, there are no requirements for the type of mask use. There's a question, another question. If a vaccinated mask student is exposed to someone COVID positive, will they have to quarantine? Now, this is a great question because something came out today, and I'm not sure if Mr. Rise or Mr. Mulligan, do you have an update on that? I don't want to misquote anything, but we will get back to you on this. This is a great question. It may be, we need to relook at what just came out today. But the current guidelines for COVID exposure for masks, I believe 3 feet of distancing may not be required to quarantine if exposed in the same area, but mask and distance. And we will get back to you on that to ensure. Patrick or James, do you have any more information on that one?
Not on that one specific, but I think it does answer a question that someone put in the chat as well, which was around, are we going to have to close out whole classrooms? So I know some folks maybe that have kids in the K-8s or maybe have kids in the elementary schools might be used to some of those different programs. Like Mr. Thompson said, the guidance that we have right now, granted things are definitely changing, but as again, if kids are within that 3 feet and wearing a mask, there would be some potentiality of needing to isolate certain students. But if they were 3 feet or further and masked, they would not under this guidance. So it wouldn't be having to close down a whole classroom. This is why we are working with our teachers to ensure as part of our safety protocol that we have clear seating charts in place so that we're able to identify and work with our school health staff to figure out who potentially to, again, protect one, the safety of our students, and we want to maximize as much instructional time and not have it spread to have to shut down classrooms.
Thanks so much, Patrick. I'm going to go and read through some of the questions that we have here. How many kids will be able to sit at a table at a time? I'm going to make an assumption that that's a lunch table. We will, to the extent possible, in order to fit all of our bodies in there, socially distanced. We're not going to put a finite number on it at this point, but we will do our best to have every other seat vacant. again, that's going to be to the extent possible. We'll do our very best to educate students to mask when they're not eating. They can unmask while eating, to keep socially distanced. We will continue to educate hygiene with sharing of food and washing of hands constantly. So thank you for that. Will you have to wear a mask if you are vaccinated? That is the mandate, vaccinated or not. Face coverings are required for us to provide education in our buildings. Let's see.
And so the other question too, Mr. Thompson, that someone asked was around if a child is unable to wear a mask. So I would link back to what Mr. Thompson shared before. Really, there, some folks I know had questions around 504s or IEPs for students with masks. There is a very specific process to qualify for a 504 or for an individualized education plan that has to be followed to document a need for students to be able to access their education. That has to be followed, and there's some very strict guidelines that come from that. As well as then if there is a doctor's or some sort of medical professional doctor that we could work out individually, but otherwise students are going to be required to wear a mask while on campus. And as we shared before, we are not at this time offering an online option for students. So that would be a conversation the family would need to have. And again, if there's further questions, contact and reach out to us or counselors. We can talk as well.
Thanks so much. I think, James, you had some answers on another question that was there.
I think we're good right now. One that just popped up, are students allowed to use their own computers instead of the Chromebooks? I think what serves our students best to allow them to access what they need is fantastic. But yes, we do have the option for all of our students to have a one-to-one device. But if your own computer serves you better as a student, then that's fantastic.
And we won't restrict. We may have to go through some kind of technical to allow that device to connect with our programs and internet. But as for right now, I don't see anything that would prohibit or restrict that. So thank you, James. I do have another great question. If quarantine, the question is around if quarantine, what happens with schoolwork? Missing a day or two of class is one thing, but 2 weeks is huge, especially for students that are in accelerated classes. Yes, absolutely. So a student who falls under the guidelines of needing to quarantine, we will again make those individualized accommodations that could look like including, but not limited to, packets, printed packets, online shared documents, online correspondence, Canvas, other remote options. We'll make sure that this follows the guidance for two-way communication that allows students to count for attendance as well as their academic requirements. So great question. Let's see, we'll go into the Q&A. Have we had any word lately on having a delay on the opening of school? I personally have not, but I may be out of the loop. I will go back through my emails and we'll look at everything, but I can tell you I have not. I will check with Mr. Rise and Mr. Mulligan. Have you heard anything either?
No, so just similar to the masks in schools and others that you have heard, we get our guidance from ODE and OHA that have a framework that's the Ready School Safe Learner that we follow in all of our implementation and have since the start of the pandemic. And at this time, we are still operating and planning for a 5-day-a-week in-person with students using masks and again, trying to do to maintain our best sort of mitigating factors within the building to protect student safety and still provide a 5-day-a-week in-person instruction at this time.
And I think that, Patrick, I think you make a great point there. ODE has been very clear as well that that is our goal, is to be 5 days a week in person, full time. That's the goal across the state, and we will maintain that that is our focus and until we are directed to do something else.
As I wrestle with my mute button. Okay, let's see. As we look, what will drop off and pickup be like? That's again another great question. What we're doing right now as an administrative team is we're looking at, this is much different. We're looking at the amount of furniture that we need to bring back into the building in order to service all of our students 5 days a week. That being said, we're in the process of determining the size and the footprint of our hallways to appropriately manage transitions. So that's something that we're managing right now. Some of you who have seen the building, there are tape and arrows that are in all of our hallways, directional for people to walk, for our students to walk, that assist in maintaining some distance and order, hopefully. That being said, we're also doing that same process as we assess what drop off and pickup will look like. And we'll put into consideration our bus load. We're putting into consideration the various drop off and pickup points. So we'll have more coming up as we make those decisions, as things look much differently than they did in the spring. So that's an excellent question. We'll have more in our town hall meeting in the upcoming weeks about some of those details. Right now, the question is, will students be able to use lockers this year? I can share with you that the discussion right now for safety and congregating in our hallways, and in order for folks to not be congested, we're looking at not opening up the lockers and staying consistent of what we did in the spring. Again, that's not a final decision. We will have those written out and documented as we move forward. But right now, we're leaning towards not having those lockers. Being said that, we are cognizant and aware of students that have a lot of things that they need to carry. And we're looking at other ways that either their AG class, their teacher could help facilitate taking the burden off of some of that, and other means where students can drop off things safely in certain classes. So we're going through that process right now, and we'll have more up and coming. I am reading the Q&A right now. Give me a second. Let's see. Mr. Rise, Mr. Mulligan, do you have any answers or do you see any questions?
So as far as the, so we have a question that asks, do we still have to social distance from each other? I think what we need to try to frame our thoughts towards is we are going to do whatever we can to mitigate spread, to mitigate an outbreak, with the same idea that we are inviting our entire population back to campus for full-time class days. And so, you know, we will do whatever we can to keep folks apart as much as we can. We will obviously take whatever steps necessary to minimize exposure and the amount of time spent close to other students. But for us to try to claim that, you know, students are going to maintain 6 foot distance throughout the day in halls, that's not probably completely realistic. So again, we are taking steps to mitigate risk and to try to maximize the amount of class time that our students have. I think that those are two themes that as a team, we will continue to try to be our North Star. We want to maximize our in-person class time, and we also want to do whatever we can to minimize risk.
Thanks, James. So one other question in there in the queue is that how do we handle symptoms, cold symptoms or COVID symptoms? So again, we're going to lean heavily on the experts in this. We are experts in education. We will follow protocols. We do have a dedicated nurse on staff, so we will follow. If there are symptoms of illness, then we will have our nurse go through a protocol and make the determination on whether or not that student will need to stay home for the duration of when they need to stay home. And again, we'll make the appropriate accommodations as needed. So, great question. All right, I think we've got through many of our questions. Keep populating them. I'm going to go on just to share with you some of the discussions that we've had about safety protocols. And these are not just related to COVID, but this is how we should be maintaining health and safety for our students and our staff. So again, I just mentioned that we have a dedicated nurse on site full time. We'll also have someone at the district level that we will have a resource to access medical expertise as we assess and as we move forward this year. We'll also have a dedicated COVID isolation room. So again, if anyone is showing symptoms, our expert nurse, resident nurse, will be able to make that determination if there is necessary for isolation. Again, we're going to be diligent with our entry points that any visitors will need to log in. We will have hand sanitizer stations throughout the building, as well as all the entry points. As Mr. Rice just shared, we will be encouraging and educating social distancing to the greatest extent possible, as well as reminding students to be respectful of others. All classrooms will be equipped with cleaning disinfectant supplies. Students are encouraged to use these and be responsible for their own spaces and equipment. We'll have hand sanitizers as well as disinfectant wipes if students so choose to use so. Our custodial staff will continue their nightly routine of cleaning protocols, including but not limited to sanitization when necessary. All of our staff will have a level of training to do visual indicators and recognizing if students may need to see the school nurse for any type of illness symptoms. So this is some of the things that we will be doing as our safe protocols throughout the year. And again, we'll continue to assess, we'll continue to watch closely if there are any other mandates or recommendations that are coming that we can make sure that we clearly articulate and communicate out to our community. So that's all of the pertinent updates that I have now. We'll go back to see if Patrick or James, is there anything in the queue that we may be able to answer now?
Yeah, there's one question that we can address, and I also just want to give us our 5-minute warnings. I know folks with family time and dinner and et cetera, we want to honor that. And like Mr. Rice says, if there's further questions, we are going to have future town halls, so we definitely want to make sure we continue this communication. So please, if you don't feel that the question was answered, you can reach back out. We will also have another way to capture questions prior to next town hall. One of the questions was asked was around the system and the schedule for next year on whether or not we would be in the quarter system or what that would look like for next year. At this time, we are building a 7-period semester schedule. So very similar to what students who experienced school at Silverton High School prior to the start of the pandemic, where there are year-long courses for year-long credits, and then there will be semester credits available as well, with students having 7 classes or 7 periods potentially each day. So that's currently what we are building. In fact, finishing our counselors. A huge hats off to our amazing counselor crew, who's been really working diligently to ensure that we have great schedules for rigorous instruction for all of our students for this coming year.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity also to share that we have some very passionate teachers that have worked diligently over the summer during their break in mapping curriculum for this coming year. That's going to be a major focus for all of our teachers and all of our courses as we move into mapping the curriculum. We also had some committees that were voluntarily working very diligently and hard, committees on restorative justice, on equity, on bell schedules. As Mr. Mulligan just shared with you, we're building our schedule on something that mirrors or is closely similar to what the 7-period semester courses were like, but there's also proposals based on some research for other potential bell schedules. So I think it's exciting to see the energy and the synergy that is being displayed by the teachers. I am just extremely proud and excited to be back in a building, to see students again, to connect with communities. I just feel very, very honored and I'm very excited. And I really, really hope that we have some semblance of normalcy as we move forward. And it's going to take all of our efforts. It's going to take everyone working together. We are promising all of our parents out there a guaranteed and viable curriculum. We're guaranteeing that we're spending hours behind the scenes, ensuring that we have the very best teachers and instructors in front of our students. And we're also very happy to work alongside of all of our stakeholders as we navigate a lot of the unknowns together. So very proud, very excited, very impressed with the Silverton community as a whole. And I'm very proud to also call this my home. So I want to thank everybody. We're approaching 8 o'clock. I want to honor everybody's time. We will have a weekly town hall. We will be scheduled for next week, Thursday, most likely 7 o'clock. But out of respect, we want to communicate with our colleagues to ensure that we're not overlapping with other schools, as we know parents have students at multiple schools. So if 7 o'clock is the go time for us, we want to make sure that we don't overlap with other schools again. So we will post that. We appreciate your time. Any last words, Mr. Rise, Mr. Mulligan, in appreciation for everybody that showed up tonight?
Thank you again, folks, for being here. And just again, one last reminder for those folks out there that have student athletes. The virtual parent meeting will be tomorrow night, Thursday at 7 p.m. Again, the virtual link will be sent tomorrow afternoon, evening, probably around 6 or 6:30. So I will see you all hopefully tomorrow night at 7 o'clock to talk some Silverton Foxes athletics. Thank you all. Patrick?
Just thank you all so much for being here. And we realize, our goal again is we want to provide the best 5-day week in person. And we realize there's lots of different things going around on thoughts and opinions and such. And we just want to ensure, again, our focus is to ensure 5 days a week as best we can and use our mitigating factors in place. So we appreciate the partnership with families so that we can work together to, again, provide that great education for your child. Because that's our goal and that's our mission and what we want to do for you all as a community.
Well said, team. Well, that's our time with you today. We look forward to doing this again next week. Again, from the bottom of our hearts, we can't thank you enough. We can't wait to service your students. Thank you. Have a good night.